Everyone, I'm Matt Ford, and welcome to the Good Trouble Show. The issue of drones operating with impunity in our airspace is a national security crisis.
So here's the question to our mutual friend, Mr. Ford. First of all, welcome, Matt. I hope we have more conversations going forward. Appreciate what you're trying to do.
Thank you, Chris.
Either they don't know or they don't want us to know. Which do you think it is? And why?
Yeah, Chris, thanks for having me. I mean, really the takeaway here, when you hear the testimony from Officer Grooms, it demonstrates that the Biden-Harris administration is absolutely gaslighting Americans. I mean, just look at the clip that you played of Pete Buttigieg, making fun of it. Despite mounting concerns from local authorities in New Jersey and elsewhere, the White House is just not being honest with the American people. They want the Americans to think that this is something new. I think it was NSC National Security Council spokesman Admiral John Kirby said, we want the same answers as you do, but with Chris's story and others, it lays bare that this is a nationwide problem dating back to at least 2019, what occurred in Colorado and Nebraska just last year, December of last year in 2023, Langley Air Force Base was virtually shut down by massive swarms of drones. They had to relocate an entire wing of F-22 fighters just this Thanksgiving of this year, prior to what happened in New Jersey. These things began showing up over our joint Air Force bases in the UK. They are showing up at NATO bases in Europe and Germany. Andrews Air Force Base recently had to shut down their airspace. They are in Nebraska, New York. The drones over Nebraska in 2019, what Officer Grooms is referring to, these are virtually identical in description and behavior to what is being reported now. So Chris, it leads to the question, why the disparity in decision making for shoot downs between what you had with the Chinese balloons and the drones? Both caused public alarm and concern. Why is the Biden administration now not reacting to these drones? Right. You have a New Jersey mayor who said they hovered over his home with the same seriousness as they did with the Chinese balloons. Why? Yeah, you know what? Why the difference? That's what I think no one can figure out what the hell is going on in the Biden administration. So that was yours truly, along with the former chief of police of Ord, Nebraska, Chris Grooms, on News Nation with Chris Cuomo. The point I was making on air is that the Biden administration is gaslighting the public and local officials on what it knows about these mysterious drones. I also pointed out on News Nation that the Biden administration wants everyone to think that this is something new, something they want to get to the bottom of. We need to send teams out and spend millions or billions of taxpayer dollars on new sensor systems so they can figure out what the hell is operating in our skies. Again, like this has never happened before. We've seen that kind of behavior time and time again out of the Biden administration, out of previous administrations as well, and also obviously the Pentagon. The White House is just gaslighting everybody, and and really the worst thing about it is they are not being honest with state and local law enforcement. Really, frankly, they are lying to them. Because here's the truth, folks. The Biden administration knows precisely what this is and where this comes from. And and here's the thing. The fact is that this has been going on for a long time. When National Security spokesman, National Security Council spokesman John Kirby gets on CNN or Fox or wherever and acts like that this is something new, he's full of shit. They're not being straight with you. And moreover, when they do this, this throws our excuse me, our men and women of law enforcement, this essentially throws them under the bus. This is basically saying these folks that are trained observers have no idea what they are looking for. It is a slap in the face from the Biden administration to anyone that has served or is serving this country, and frankly, it's disgusting. So today, the former chief of police of Ord, Nebraska, Chris Grooms, will join us again on the show, but we also have another law enforcement official going public for the very first time. He will show 15 never-before-seen clips of drones he has caught on his phone and his security camera while on duty. But first, please hit the subscribe and thumbs up buttons on YouTube. Leave a comment and let us know what you think about this episode. You can also find us on X at Good Trouble Show and everywhere else on at The Good Trouble Show. You can also find us wherever you enjoy your podcasts. Search for The Good Trouble Show with Matt Ford, and you should find our stuff. And if you would like to chip in to keep the lights on, you can become a Patreon member of The Good Trouble Show by going to www.patreon.com/The Good Trouble Show. Sign up and you can support our work. We always really appreciate it. Also, super chats are open. By and large, now we do not do live shows because if something screws up when you're doing something live, you have no way of undoing it. And as probably everyone here knows, at least in the studio here, it's a literal one-man operation. But I would like to thank, before we get going, our mods, our Good Trouble Show mods that are keeping the chat room up and running, and Allie, our segment producer. This is a team effort, and this is also a team effort by everyone at home watching this show and calling your lawmakers and telling them what is coming out of this White House is not acceptable. Okay, moving on. And again, super chats are open. We always appreciate the support. Okay, so today's guests are the epitome of serving your country. On your left here is a U.S. Army Airborne Infantry veteran who is now serving his country as a law enforcement professional. As a sheriff's deputy for Valley County, Nebraska, he was the department's sniper and firearms instructor. He is now the former chief of police for Ord, Nebraska. When we actually had him on for our interview, he was chief of police at the time. So please welcome back to the show on everyone's left, former police chief Chris Grooms. On the right, going public for the very first time with his experiences. Please welcome from Valley County, Nebraska, from the Sheriff's Department there, Deputy Jade+stethem. Gentlemen, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Pretty good. How are you?
Excellent.
Good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. And thanks for coming back, Chris. So Chris, let's start with you. Firstly, like I said, welcome back to the show. We're really glad you're here. How have the citizens of Ord, Nebraska, reacted to you going public and really frankly standing up for your town and your community?
Yeah, it's been pretty much the same thing as before. That recently, or earlier, when I was trying to get this out there to the government, it's thank you for what you're doing. We really appreciate it. It hasn't stopped. It's still people wanting to know what's going on, and they do come to me, whether through text, email, give me a phone call. They're reaching out to me because they're still concerned.
Of course. Now, Deputy Stethem, am I saying your last name correctly, Stethem?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay. I tend to butcher names on this show. I don't know, maybe I need to take like a diction or pronunciation class or something like that. Okay, so you're going public with your experiences. This is the first time. How does it feel? Are you nervous, excited? What are you feeling right now?
Definitely a little nervous. So.
Yeah, well, don't be nervous. You're amongst friends here, and and as I mentioned off the air before we started, my hat is really off to both of you. The easy way would be to stay silent about this and not go public. You always have the folks that try to propagate the stigma and all of that. But as I've said time and again on this show, this is really a public safety issue. This is a national security issue. So having trained observers such as yourself, not to discount people at home that see this stuff and report it, but the fact that both of you are paid law enforcement professionals and you are trained observers, what the statements you make are admissible in court in cases and whatnot. So so it's not like you guys aren't used to looking at things in the line of your work and making evaluations of what you are looking at. So my hat is off to both of you, and we really appreciate it. So, and before we dig into what Deputy Stedhem as what you've encountered, Chris, walk us through, if you don't mind, once again, what happened in 2019 and 2020 in Valley County. And I understand you were not chief of police at that time; you were a deputy in the same sheriff's department that Deputy Stedhem is in, correct?
Yep, that's correct. So back in 2019, late December, we started having things flying around that shouldn't have been there. And as far as, the area where I lived and where this stuff was happening, we do have your commercial flyover planes at 38,000 feet. But as far as at 100 feet, 150 feet, sometimes even 60 feet, we were seeing things that didn't make sense. They shouldn't have been there. They weren't from our local military, from our local law enforcement. The state patrol was telling us that it wasn't their stuff. These things were doing very odd things around in our community, whether it was, harassing livestock or hovering over the town, swarming the town, upwards of 50 of these things swarming around Arcadia, Nebraska. They just, like I said in the recent interview, it just didn't make sense.
When you say harassing livestock, exactly what was reported and how many reports, 911 calls did you get regarding that?
As far as the livestock stuff, the harassment of livestock, it wasn't every night. It wasn't reoccurring, but it did happen a few times from a few different ranchers or farmers about these lights in the sky just shining down a light, if you want to call it that, on their cattle, and it would make their cattle move off, or their horses even would move off, and they'd have to go out the next day trying to get accountability again. And sometimes these things would chase off their livestock 2 miles away, and they would have to go search for these things for 2 miles away. And out here in Ward, Nebraska, we have huge sand hills. And sometimes it can be a super pain in the ass to get your UTV or your four-wheeler, especially when it's cold, down into a draw or ravine to try and find these animals. So, not only are you wasting your own resources going out trying to find these expensive animals, but there's always possibility of a rollover or, not having cell service, not being able to get a hold of somebody. So it just became a nuisance. And
describe what you saw in terms, because you saw these drones yourself. How big were they? How big were they? Do they sound similar to what is being reported in New Jersey?
Yeah, the one that I saw, very, very close, 100 feet, 150 feet in the air. It was nothing but a big bright light. There was no shape to it. I couldn't tell if it had wings, just because due to how bright that light was. And like I had mentioned, it had contrails behind it, but it was going so fast that for me to even be able to see what it was, other than a bright light, it was almost impossible.
So you weren't able to, sorry, go on ahead.
No, I was just going to say, some of the other reports that we received from our 911 or just some of our local witnesses calling in, it was similar to what some of the stuff in New Jersey is showing us.
And what was in terms of like size, what was the most commonly reported size of people seeing these things?
Yep. So we had plenty of reports on large ones, the size of pickup trucks, of SUVs, as well as sometimes when we would see swarms of upwards of 11 to 40 to 50, they typically weren't your large ones. They were of a smaller nature, whether it was a quadcopter or a bright light, I don't know. But they typically were the smaller looking ones when they were in the bigger formations.
And
it seemed like
please go ahead.
I was going to say, it seemed like the big ones, if you want to call them that, the bigger sized drones, balls of light, they typically were by themselves.
Okay. And did these things make any noise at all?
The night that I saw the big giant ball of light in the sky that a few other witnesses and the sheriff himself saw, it was silent. There was nothing.
And how high was this off the ground? Could it have been just too high to hear anything?
No, it definitely was anywhere between 100 and 150 feet high, because I referenced off its height with the co-op towers light, which is about 100, 150 feet. So it was right there.
So that's pretty low. And it is, for the most part, the 911 calls that came in regarding this and the calls to service that you guys acted upon was that sort of the typical altitude? These things weren't up as high as like a commercial airliner. They were fairly low to the ground.
Yeah, they were sometimes at tree level, 50 feet, 60 feet.
Even the large ones.
They were low. What's that?
Even the large ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The large ones, not only just in our county, but in the surrounding counties that these deputies and the sheriffs were reporting to, they were low. They were that 60 to 150 feet.
And was the public at the time, were they panicked about this? What characterized the number of the number of 911 calls that you guys received, and overall, what was the tone of those calls in terms of the emotion or concern from the citizens calling in?
Yeah, it initially wasn't really a concerning thing. It's only after they continued to show up and were showing up in bigger numbers, and that, even us local law enforcement guys were telling people, hey, we can't find them. We can't track them. We don't know where they're coming from. We don't know where they're going. We're reaching out to federal authorities, off at Air Force Base. And then when they started giving us it's not us, we don't know, we're looking into it, then it became a concern to the local populace that they knew, this isn't normal and somebody needs to fess up and let us know what's going on.
Did the U.S. government, I understand that the sheriff there contacted the FBI, DHS, FAA, U.S. Stratcom. Did the government, did the White House at the time, did anyone from the federal government eventually come back to you guys, say like 3 months later, and say, oh, we figured out what these things are?
No.
Okay. So absolutely no response from the federal government. They're just, after what you guys encountered stopped, they just seemed to stop caring.
Yep. The only people that were caring were journalists.
Unbelievable. If you would walk us, firstly, how many 911 calls do you think you guys received over that 2019-2020 period? And then second, if you were to put a number on the total drones that were operating in the county, what would you put that at as an estimate?
Yeah, so for Valley County, including the Ord 911 calls, I would estimate between 44 and 48 in that 14 to 17 days. And as far as the surrounding counties, they were seeing the same stuff at the same time as we were. So you can only imagine what we are receiving in our county approximately the same hour at night, the other counties are receiving the same thing as well. And some of these counties were 100 miles away. So like I had said in the past, this was a very well coordinated, well funded incident, and it's just mind boggling that we're being told that, oh, don't worry about it, they're out looking for this, or this is just an isolated incident, because it's not.
Yeah, I actually had no idea. I thought at the time when we recorded your interview, which I think it may have been well over a month ago, but it was only happening in that one city at a time. I didn't realize it was so prolific. That's pretty significant.
Yeah. Yep. And you can imagine out here in middle of nowhere, Nebraska, we are not a huge law enforcement presence, but we all work together. We talk to the other counties, the other PDs, state patrol. We all have each other on speed dial, if you want to call it that, for stuff. So you can only imagine when I'm seeing stuff in my county, and then a deputy from a county just next to me is calling saying, dude, are you seeing this crap? Are you guys getting calls down there? Yep. We're dealing with it too, man. So
that's now. How big is Ord, Nebraska, in terms of population?
Yeah, Ord's about 2,200 people, and then Valley County is pushing close to 5,000. And
okay, wow. So there aren't a lot of people out there.
No, and Valley County is not huge, but it's not small. I think it's about 568 square miles. The county is.
Okay. And is there much in the way of air traffic that occurs in Valley County?
No, just your typical prop dusters and some of our local military coming out of Grand Island fly Chinooks and Blackhawks, and we might have a medevac coming in once in a while from Kearney or Lincoln or Grand Island, but that's not every hour, every day. It's maybe a couple times a week, if that. And you can hear the helicopters coming in. So
yeah, you can get some commercial flights up high too, but you can hear those even at that altitude.
Okay.
And you can tell that those commercial flights that are flying over, that are coming from New York or Los Angeles or Denver, you can tell that they're at 35,000, 38,000 feet. It's way up there.
Oh yeah.
And you just know.
Now, Deputy Stethem, were you in law enforcement in Nebraska during the 2019-2020 wave?
Nope, I was not.
And
it was my own business at that time. So,
did you, as not working in law enforcement at the time, did you see any of these during 2019-2020?
I did not. My mother did, actually. So she called me up and was just ecstatic that there was just hundreds of them out all over Valley County, and she witnessed personally like 20 plus just hovering up above the ground that were the size of cars.
20 plus.
Yeah.
That's, yeah, wow. Okay, so I want to start digging in to some of these videos that you've sent, and then we'll just kind of split the show up. This show's a little bit different in that we're not going to really have sort of a strict format. So we'll look at some of your videos, and then Chris will come back to you and learn a little bit more about what you encountered. But Deputy Stethem, when did all of this crank up? Was it just a couple days ago? Like, when did you notice an uptick in what is currently occurring now in Valley County, Nebraska, once again?
Yeah, it's been about a few weeks. It's just out of nowhere. They just started popping up. They came kind of in correlation with the New Jersey stuff. As soon as that started getting rampant, it kind of seemed like everything else was coming up here as well. It just kind of followed. But I feel like also the more people pay attention, the more they see. So.
Right. Yeah. The more they're looking at, that makes sense. Okay. So so what we've done, so over, really, I think over the past couple of weeks. So you reached out to us and you began sending us videos of what you were encountering almost every night while on duty. And you are the the main person on the night shift in Valley County, correct, for the Sheriff's Department?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, great. Okay, so what we did, because one of the things that you hear the Biden administration say and the Pentagon is that what is being seen in New Jersey are just commercial airplanes that are misidentified, or law enforcement drones, or hobbyist drones, which actually leads me to this question that just popped into my head. How often do you guys see hobbyist drones in Valley County?
No, not very often. I think there's one outfit up by Arcadia that sprays like their fields and stuff. They do that and they make drones, but other than that, it's not really a thing out here. Okay,
so this isn't like people. So the teenagers are flying drones every night.
No.
Okay, great. So as I said, that's been the kind of line we're hearing from the Biden administration and others, is that they think everybody is in New Jersey is just imagining all of this, or they're misconstruing airplanes and hobbyist drones and law enforcement drones for these things. There's nothing to worry here. Let's not talk about these things shutting down our air bases. So what we did is, Deputy Stethem, is we took your videos. We had you send them to us raw. So we have all of the metadata. We have the position of the latitude, longitude of where you were, the exact time and date. And then what we did is we went through Flight Radar 24 and we looked at the historical radar data for that exact time and place. So what we're going to show you are these videos, and on the left you'll see what you shot, Deputy Stethem, on your phone, and then on the right will be the radar at that time that you were filming it. So anyway, yeah. So feel free to jump in if you have any commentary. But this is one of the first clips. This occurred on December 16th. At 1806 Standard Time. And by the way, we did, because we know people like Mick West and some of these other debunkers, just so everyone knows, we took the central local time and we converted it into UTC, which is what's used in aviation. So anyway, here is the first clip, and if you want to tell us what we're looking at here, please feel free.
Going down the road. All right, yeah, this one here is just outside of Ord, Nebraska.
This is outside of Ord?
Yep, I was just driving down the road and happened to see them in the sky. And then I actually caught two here. I think this one intercepts with another one, and they cross paths.
Okay. Yeah, there he is. I see two of them blinking.
Yep, and at this point, I think I was talking to Chris, and I was asking him, like the determination of, hey, is this an airplane or not? And trying to figure stuff like that out. But yeah, don't think they're airplanes.
Yeah, no, I would say not. Do any of these feel at all like they are sort of conventional drones?
How fast it's going. Well, like this one in particular, actually, when it's going, like Chris was saying earlier, it has contrails that you can barely see on it. So it's weird, but at the same time, you can't hear it like expelling anything. Like you should be able to. You can't hear anything.
Okay.
So it's just baffling.
Now, this was a part where I didn't run the radar as long as I should have, but I'm just going to back the clip up here. And as what I want to point out here, and I'm going to pause this, is Ord is around in the middle of this map. And this was set, I think, to a 1 kilometer resolution. So these airplanes that are in the top left, they're pretty far out, and on top of that, I'm having a hard time reading it on my screen, but those aircraft are at around 25,000 feet, and they're moving in a straight line. As you can see in your video, these things are just, it looks like they're just kind of staying in place. Yeah, that's pretty wild. So when you see these things, do you think that these are prosaic drones? Do they feel like it's maybe something not from here? What is your sort of personal take on where these things might be coming from?
Yeah, it's definitely got an eerie feel to it. After watching multiple of these things fly around, you can definitely tell that it's just not any of the stuff that we would have in our technology. We don't have anything that advanced. The way that they move and like their maneuver abilities and the no sound and just the speed of them, they're just astronomically fast. So
you have seen these things go faster than what you've seen aircraft or drones operate at?
Yep, I tried to get it on camera multiple times, but you can see them. They'll start in one position and then they'll kind of do a circle, and then they're gone.
Okay. All right, let's watch the next one. This was actually the same day on December 16th. The first one was at 6:06 p.m. and this is something that occurred at 6:25 p.m.
Yeah, this is one that really got me going. See, it's going one direction. I believe it's heading west, and then all of a sudden the lights just shut off completely. Okay. It just went dark, and I was like, "Whoa, what the heck?" And then it turned directions, did like a sharp 90, and it started coming back my direction, and that's when I got this video.
Now, there was a aircraft somewhat overhead at flight level 350, 35,000 feet. Do you recall seeing that airplane as well? Do you think that this could have been that aircraft, or more likely not?
Oh, definitely not. I didn't even see or hear an aircraft like that. Just like a commercial, or didn't even see one.
Like I
said, it did a complete 90 after it shut off its lights, which, if it was, it's illegal. If it was, something of our nation, but it's not. And then it's a sharp 90 degrees, and the maneuverability that it does, it's definitely not something of ours.
One thing I just noticed for the first time is back this up a little bit. So there's the one that you're tracking, and then it looks like there's one coming in from above at the top left.
Yep, up in the top left, there's another one. It's a completely different shape and everything. There's no lights on it. There's no flashing, blinking lights. It just looks like an orb, and it's going probably 5 times faster than that big one, and it's way higher. So.
Are you able to make out the physical shape? I know when Chris had his 2019-2020 incidents, law enforcement wasn't able to make out the shape or structure of the craft. Are you able to see the structure of the craft, or are you just seeing lights? Because when I look at this video, it looks like you can see a bit of the shape.
Yeah, on the big one especially, I could see it a little bit better than what the camera's picking up. And it kind of looked like if Batman's old throwing star, if you will, is what it reminded me of. Just like a U shape with a little point in the middle.
Do you have a way of kind of estimating maybe how big you think that thing was, like the size of like a Southwest jet, or is it difficult to tell?
Like a smaller or medium-sized private airplane is about how big it was.
Okay, wow. So it
was big.
It was
bigger than my truck.
Say that again. Sorry.
It was definitely bigger than my truck, my patrol vehicle.
Wow. And if you were to guess how high this was off the ground as in terms of altitude, what would you estimate that to be?
Maybe 2,000-3,000 feet.
Okay. So not 100 to 200 like Chris experienced. Okay. So it's much higher. Okay. Let's we're going to move on to the next one here. This is the following day, December 17th at 6:54 p.m. And again, for privacy reasons, I didn't want to put exactly where you were on the map when you took these. We do have the exact latitude, longitude, but suffice it to say, in the very middle of that map is Ord, and you are in that vicinity. Okay, so here's the next one. And what are we looking at here? Oop, did I lose you? Yep, Chris, did we lose you there?
No, I'm still here.
Let's see, Jade, you on? Looks like he's frozen. Okay, so hopefully he is going to reconnect. I'm just going to shoot him a message and say your Zoom disconnected, and please reconnect. Okay, so yeah, so again, you see, there's one aircraft that's pretty high up. Both of these are airliners, but yeah, it just does not look like that. It just doesn't look like anything prosaic. These videos, of course, are difficult to make out because you're shooting in the dark. It's like shooting the moon with your cell phone. That rarely comes out well. But again, you can see from the radar data, like even at this point, up at the top right, you see something moving, and you don't see any sort of traditional red and green nav lights. But when you look at the radar, the historical radar, and I'm starting this clip over again, you only have those two very high aircraft. You don't see anything up around 5,000 feet. So let's see here. So we still do not have Officer Stethem back. So Chris, let's take a break from the videos. When you encountered your drone, and of course we have Officer Stethem there on the right, frozen in time. Tell us about that experience. What exactly occurred? Were you responding to a call? Were you out in the middle of nowhere? What was the weather like? Was it quiet? Walk us through that whole experience.
Yeah, so my one big personal experience I had was late December. I think it was about the 28th of December. I was actually home, and my sheriff called me and said, hey, the little town that's south of Valley County called Scotia, it's just southeast of North Loop, which is in my county, about 2.5 miles. He called me and said, hey, there's a lot of drone activity circling town. People are counting upwards of 11 to 15 of these things. So if you could go hop in your truck and go take a look at it, because he was at the time currently busy with something else. And I said, yep, I'll hop in. So I got in my work truck, and from where I was at, it was about a 13-mile drive. I came to Highway 22, Highway 11 junction, right outside of North Loop, about 3/4 of a mile. And when I got to the Highway 22, Highway 11 junction, I went to go look left, and I noticed the co-op tower, which is about 3/4 of a mile north of my position, which would be to my left. And I said, well, there's a light to the east of the co-op light, and that's not the co-op light. So I looked right, and as I looked right and noticed no traffic or anything coming, I looked back left, and by the time I had looked back left, that thing was right in front of my windshield. And at the co-op tower to my location is about 3/4 of a mile, and it covered 3/4 of a mile in that 2 to 3, 4 seconds. And when you looked at this thing, and we deputies coming back on, was the light like anything unique? Like was it brighter than like a regular drone? Like was it like a welding arc? Like was there anything that did not seem right about it that would lead you to believe that it may not be from anything here? Yeah, and actually, the comment that you made during our interview about the welding arc, that pretty much kind of put it exactly to what it looked like to me. It it wasn't blinding, because it was 100 feet up in the air. It wasn't as far as a straight line distance. It wasn't very far away. It literally probably was on the other side of the highway, maybe just past the railroad tracks, which are fairly close in that area to the highway. But it was it was like a welding arc light. It just, if you've ever welded, it was bright, but it didn't blind me. I didn't need to cover my eyes. I didn't need to throw on some cool looking glasses. It was just a light. It was a reddish orange. It didn't have a shape. I couldn't tell if it had wings, if there were windows. It was just a light. And the other thing is just how fast it went by me. I still to this day, I'm flabbergasted by it. And, when I had turned to start heading south down Highway 11 towards Scotia, it wasn't in sight very long. My line of sight is another probably 5 or 6 miles before you start hitting the chalk mines and the sand hills. But it went out of view pretty quick. And even as I had made it to that bridge that goes over the North Loop River to go into Scotia, I did stop right at the bridge because it kind of opens up there to where there's no trees in front of me. So if I jumped up on the hood or in the back of my truck, I could get a little bit better view. And it was gone. And those other folks had pulled up next to me, and I made the comment, "Please tell me you guys saw that." And they saw it. And of course the sheriff saw it, which where he lived at that time, he would have either had it fly right over the top of him or just to his east.
Okay, so, and I'm going to have you tell us what the sheriff encountered in a bit. Deputy, thanks for making it back on and getting your Zoom connection going again. So I'm curious as well. When you've seen these things, Chris Grooms just said that these were often like as bright as like looking at a welding arc. Have you encountered anything like that?
No, not particularly. I mean, you can definitely pick them out when they're up in the sky. That they're a lot brighter, and then they flash and they change colors. They almost look like stars, except they're way brighter. And then if you pay attention to them, then they'll start to move, and you can, since you're watching them, you can notice them do these things. But never anything bright and intense like he experienced.
Okay, let's watch the next tape here. So yeah, what are we looking at here? This is on December 17th at 7:02 p.m.
Yeah, just another drone just blinking and going. I got a bunch of these, and the crazy part of it is there's sometimes that I could be videoing and I could see you, or you could see whoever's watching multiples of these things just in one phone screen. You can capture 3 or 4 of them at a time sometimes.
Wow. And, and looking at this again, when you look at the radar and Ord would be in the middle, you have one jet at, it looks like 30,000 feet. But this drone seems to be staying in relatively the same position. It's not moving like you see on the radar. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that's about right. And a lot of the times, most of the times, it looks like these things are going in like a grid line pattern. Like they don't really veer from it much, but when they do, then it's just erratic and not a way that a pilot would be going, or even an unmanned drone.
Yeah, I mean that thing is really pretty bright. And again, this is about 5,000 feet, you would say?
Yeah, about 5.
Okay, yeah. And again, that single jetliner, and you're looking at the exact radar traffic that occurred at the time. There's one airplane in the sky, and it's way up. So yeah, there you go. Okay, let's watch another here. This is the same night, December 17th. And a little bit later than 7. Now, is this the same one as the previous clip about 10 minutes earlier, or did this come in?
Nope. Every video that I took was of a different different place and or a different drone.
And this one looks like it's kind of stationary.
Yep. One of them in particular that I can remember, it was just sat in one spot and it did not move for like 15 minutes. And then it would blink on, fade in, fade out, and then it just wouldn't be there anymore. Whether it turned its lights off permanently or it took off and I just didn't catch it. But
yeah, well, and the thing to note here, I mean, there's one aircraft entering way off in the distance, but the radar above Ord there are no airplanes. Period.
Yep.
There are none. Okay, we're going to watch another one here. So this is on December 18th, 7:30 p.m. So relatively the same time. Now, I cranked up the exposure here a little bit. Again, there's only one aircraft in the sky, and that's, I think, 38,000. Is there anything in particular that caught your eye about this particular one? Because it looks like there's more than one. I think I see another one flashing.
Yep. This is one of those times where there was multiple of them in one frame. Nothing really in particular, especially nowadays. After these last long 3 weeks, it's almost routine now for me to be seeing this many. And I just pop out the camera now just as a go-to now. So just to get them out there.
And do these make any noise? Like, do you hear any jet engines or anything?
No, absolutely nothing. And that blows my mind too, because some of these things, regardless of how high they are, even if they were up at commercial airline flight, like altitude, you can hear those suckers when they're going that fast. And these things can just zoom across the sky and you hear nothing.
There's absolutely no sound coming from these things. And is in Ord, Nebraska, and again, just knowing that the population is only a couple of thousand, I take it, and the question to you both, I take it that there's pretty much nothing in terms of like light pollution or ambient sound?
No.
It's you get outside of Ord and it's when it's night and you get outside of Ord, it's dark. That's why we have a lot of car collision with deer accidents, because it's so dark. You don't see them until they're right there. Okay.
And Deputy Stethem, you would agree with that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You don't even have to get but a half a mile outside of town and it's dark.
Yeah. And when you talked about like crop dusters and whatnot. So you'll see those aircraft operating during the day, but at night, do you see any in the way of private aircraft?
Nope. We don't normally, before all this especially, we never had any, like I don't even recall a single time seeing anything flying at night.
Okay.
At all.
Yeah.
Let alone even car travel.
Say that again, Chris?
I was just going to say, let alone even car travel. After 10 p.m.
It dies.
About the only vehicles out are law enforcement, other than your select few coming through, passing to go through to a different town or something like that.
So, Chris, walk us through the story that you told about what the sheriff at the time encountered. Walk us through that. What occurred? We reached out to the sheriff and we were hoping that he would come on the show, but he declined. So fill us in on what you were told when you were a deputy for Valley County and what the sheriff encountered.
Yeah, so a county, just 2 counties over from us, the sheriff over there, I've been in contact with for a couple of years now, whether just, to shoot the shit or we talk law enforcement. And he reached out to me about an incident they had. And this was back years ago. He didn't just come to me with this. This has been a while. So back in 2019, him and 2 of his deputies were out and about on patrol, and they got called to something in the sky, and they went to go intervene and investigate it. And they come upon it. It was up in the sky, not very high. That 100 feet area elevation, and they started to pursue it. And like the other ones that we encountered, it paralleled the gravel roads. It wouldn't go off in any direction. It wanted them to know that they were seen by this thing, but yet it almost wanted them to continue to pursue it. So as they continued to pursue it down the gravel roads, it actually went back towards the highway. And as they got towards the highway, it began to move down and parallel the highway. So they got on the highway and continued to pursue it. The sheriff made the comment to me in his Suburban, which was his patrol truck at that time, that he was almost, maxed out, or was maxed out around 120 miles an hour. And they weren't able to catch it, but yet at the same time, it wasn't pulling away from them, but they couldn't catch it, if that makes any sense. It was staying far enough away from them, but at the same time, it was like toying with them. Mm-hmm. And eventually it came to kind of a stop and moved off into like a creek bed or over a little river that was right there to the north of their location. And they went to go spotlight it with their searchlights. And as they went to go spotlight it with their searchlights, it not being very high in the sky, shined a huge light back down on them. And the way that the sheriff described it to me is if it was almost daylight in all directions, left, right, in every direction that he looked, it seemed like it was daylight. And he said it covered anywhere from 150 to 300 yards in all directions. And he said it made no noise. That was the other thing that freaked him out, was that it made no noise. And those other two deputies were with him, and they also were a part of it. And it just left. It took off. They couldn't find it no more. They couldn't track it. I don't know how much longer after that incident happened that the sheriff called down to the airport in Grand Island, which is basically our bigger regional airport that has flights out of, Phoenix, Mesa, Arizona, Las Vegas, that type of stuff. So they have some big flights that come out of there. But it was that night that he called down there. And I assume it was pretty much right after he had his encounter, just by the way he was talking to me. And when he called down to that airport and asked them, hey, are you guys tracking anything on your radar? They made the comment to him, no, we don't see what's on where you're at. We don't see anything like that on our radar. And that airport, I think that anything below 3,000 feet, they don't see. So Could they have just not been seeing it because it was so low? I don't know. But he was a little, I don't want to say he was shaken up by it, but you could tell in his voice that he had seen something that really shocked him.
Did he ever say did he have any theories as to what he saw? Does he think it? Did he think it was from a foreign adversary, or did he share any thoughts?
We never really talked about that. He's a busy guy. The dude's running a county. He runs his own business. He stays busy. So we didn't have a huge conversation about what we thought or what he thought it could have been, other than, dude, what do we do about this? We need somebody to get out here and figure this out. And that's pretty much what we do talk about, is when is somebody out here that knows what this stuff is, or that somebody has an idea of what it is, come out here and talk to us out here in Nebraska, because this stuff has been going on way before New Jersey. And I feel for those folks in New Jersey, the mayors and stuff. I wish I could get in contact with them and talk to them and let them know, we dealt with it back in 2019, 2020, and where they're at right now. We're getting the runaround.
Understood. Okay, Deputy Stethem, let's play one of your other clips here. This is from, December 18th at 7:49 p.m. Now, again, it looks like I'm seeing two things here. One at the bottom right, So walk us through again what we're seeing. And I would point out, in the radar, there is absolutely no air traffic overhead. Zero, zilch.
It actually ended up turning its direction and coming back at me again after I ended the video. And it was just strange. It kind of stayed and hovered right above me and then just disappeared.
Is at the bottom of the screen, I see another sort of point of light. Is that a star or is that another drone?
That I think that was actually one of them that was. It looks just like a star, like a lot of them do. But that one in particular would turn from that color it is now to more of an orangish and like off color, and then it would just flicker like that. But it was pretty stationary.
So I froze the video here. If you look at the bottom of the video, you see the point of light that was flashing before, and I'm actually going to back this up because you're going to see another one flying in just to the right. It's blinking on and off, sort of at the top right. How often do you see this sort of thing where one will show up and then a few minutes later others will appear?
All the time. It could be completely dead out, and then all of a sudden you see one, and then when you see one, it's like when you, at least for me anyway, when I start recording these things, I'm just surrounded. Anywhere I look, I can find one at any given time.
And again, pointing out the historical radar data, which the ADS-B data, you do see one aircraft now coming in. I think it's flight level 290, but for the first half of this video, there was absolutely nothing on screen. And are these things, I can't really tell the elevation of the camera. Are you looking at like a 45-degree angle or almost straight up? It looks like there's the horizon line there.
Yep. It's about a 45-degree angle on I'd say the northeast of town.
Okay.
That North Loop, Nebraska. But
and again, it's like, you see one aircraft in the sky, and that's at a very high altitude, and it wasn't there in the beginning. And you have multiple targets here flashing on and off. It's it's just it makes no sense that it would be an aircraft. And again, with this one, there were no engine sounds or anything of that nature.
Nope, nothing. And just as the other ones, like the select few times that there is actually an actual commercial aircraft or something up in the sky, I don't even recall a single time actually seeing those from where I was.
Now, I caught this a second ago. Is this this larger point of light? Is this another one of them, or is this a street light or the moon or something else?
That one actually, it's a yard light out by actually a farmer's house. So
okay,
it just constantly blinks.
Oh, got it. Okay, all right. So that's
you'd ignore that one.
Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, so there's these were all on December 18th around 8 p.m. And then here's another one. Just about 10 minutes later. And again, I'm going to pause the video here. You've got one aircraft at, I think it's flight level 340, so 34,000 feet off in the distance. Any chance that this could be that jet? Or when you're looking at it, it's obvious this is not, well, I see two of them. So again, more than one.
Yeah, there's multiples. I wouldn't even get my camera out if I even had the slightest inkling that it was one of our planes.
And it's obvious to you as a trained observer what is an aircraft, a conventional aircraft or drone, and what is not. And in your opinion, these are neither.
Yeah.
Okay.
Neither.
Okay. And I'm going to back this up a little bit. So there, that one's pretty bright there. That one's obviously moving. And then it looks like there was just one to the left. I mean, there are. It's insane how many of these things there are. It's crazy. Are you in the sheriff's department? Are you guys receiving 911 calls at all regarding these drones? They look pretty high up, so I don't know why.
Yeah, we haven't recently, but probably about 2 months ago now, we had a call out. There was one that was just hovering out in someone's backyard, just a local farmer's backyard. And I actually ended up chasing it for miles down like minimum maintenance roads, and I never could get close enough to actually like see something to be able to describe it, like its shape or anything. You could just see the light, and it would just go away. And like Chris said, it would go straight with the road. At one point, when I first got into minimum maintenance road, I didn't even really know where I was because I was just kind of in the heat of the moment. But it almost led me onto the road, and I just kept following it, and then it just disappeared, turned its lights off.
And how, so this particular incident, how low do you think it was to the ground?
At that one where I seen it, I believe it was lower when it was called in. It was actually one of our dispatchers that called me and told me about it. It was lower then, but when I seen it, it was probably 60, 80 feet off the ground. And it stayed between there and about 100 feet until it disappeared over the horizon.
How large would you estimate this object to be?
Probably just a little smaller than an SUV.
Okay, so and so this thing is a little bit smaller than an SUV. Did it make any noise?
Nope, nothing.
Wow, crazy. We have a question here. A question: with all the videos, pictures online, do you see any correlation to what you both have personally witnessed and documented? Is there a correlation to what you're hearing from is going on in New Jersey and elsewhere in videos and photos? Do these look similar to what you guys have witnessed yourself?
I believe so. Some of the things that I've seen, one of the videos that I've seen online up there almost reminded me of what I was trying to describe on that first video that I seen that we looked at with the big one that went right over top me after that 90 degree. They looked almost identical to that. And that's what reminded me of the Batman throwing star.
How about you, Chris?
As far as some of the videos I've seen, what I was told through witness testimony or by other deputies, they are similar, based off the color of the lights, or what you're hearing about. They just go dark. They shut their lights off. That was pretty. That happened a lot out here in 2019, 2020, where they would just disappear. They shut their lights off. And I don't know if I can bring this up real quick about one of the deputies that I gave you his contact info. I know you reached out to him. I'm not going to say his name or whatever, where he worked. He doesn't want me to, but I know you did talk to him about this as well.
Correct.
He, while he was on duty, he got called to one of these situations, and when he got on scene, he noticed them up in the sky, and he counted about 6 to 8 of these things in a single formation. It wasn't Starlink. I know Starlink came out in 2019, I think, but these weren't Starlink. They were low. They were 60 feet up. They were a bright light, and they were all in a single formation. And as they continued to move in a single formation away from him, he pursued alongside them. And as they got to a point in the sky, every single one of the lights shut off in that same spot. So as one light shut off, the next one would hit that same spot, it would shut off. And all of them just disappeared in that same exact spot. And they were 60, 70 feet in the air, and they were bright lights. It wasn't Starlink.
And no reported sound.
Right, correct.
Yeah, amazing. Another question here from Terrence Wills. Question for you both. Was the light self-contained or shining off of trees or structures? Thank you for your service. So in other words, like if I had a lantern and I'm walking around in my backyard, obviously the lantern's going to be bright and it's going to illuminate the objects around it. And when the two of you have had close encounters with these things at a low altitude, did they seem to illuminate the environment? Chris, we'll start with you.
Well, the one that I saw, it didn't illuminate, me. It didn't illuminate my vehicle. Could it have been illuminating the ground? Possibly, but it was so fast that from what I could tell, there was no directional form of light coming off of it. It was just a big bright light in the sky. And like I said, it's mind-boggling.
Deputy Stethem, you were shaking your head. Yes,
yeah.
as well.
Yeah, same thing. It just kind of was there, if that makes any sense. It wasn't shining anywhere, any one direction. It was bright, but to me, it just wasn't bright enough to actually like shine on anything and illuminate anything. It doesn't make any sense. It's just for how bright it was that it wasn't lighting up other parts of the ground or whatever, but it didn't.
Another question from Carl Pierre Marini. Sorry, Butch, I'm bad about last names. Were there any smells involved, like ozone, or kind of like what you would smell with electrical sparks or arcing? Anything of that nature? Anything odd that either of you smelled?
No.
Not with anything that I either investigated or witnessed myself. No.
Okay. All right. Let's roll another tape. This is from December 21st at 6:08 p.m. And we're going to roll this one. Now this is what. Yeah. So this is right at sunset then. I don't know if you can see it there. Yeah, okay, there we go. Now we're seeing, I think, on the left there, well, yeah, sorry, at the bottom, you're seeing the blinking points of light. That one, I think, may be a star. Deputy Stethem, does this ring a bell? I know you've sent so many of these videos, it's got to be hard to keep track.
I'm actually having trouble seeing the video on this one.
Yeah, it's a little bit difficult to see, but in a couple places, you do see lights flashing. And again, I would point out on the historical radar data, there is, there's nothing there. Let me play another one here. I think this one's a little easier to see.
Okay, yep. This one is actually off of my security camera that I just put on last night, I believe. I put it out front of my house.
Okay.
So this is actually from my residence here. It caught me in the middle of the night. I had an motion alert, and my camera's like that track too. So they'll go to whatever set them off, and they'll follow them. And it actually went to this spot, and it just kept recording these lights, drones, whatever you want to call them. And they would actually go in and out of the brighter, dimmer. They would disappear. They would come back on in completely different spots. Multiples of them would show up on there. This one is just mind-boggling.
I think when I look at this, I think this may have been one of your cell phones because it does look like the picture is moving. But one of the next ones, or the one I think after the next one I'll show, is definitely from your security camera. So let's watch. This is again on December 21st, 9:12 p.m. Oh, this may have been the same one. I'm sorry. I apologize. Yeah, this is the same one. Let's watch what I think is from your security camera. Okay, yeah.
Yep. There we go.
Wow.
Yeah, this is just mind-boggling. And seeing the multiples of them. And I am, albeit speeding this up a little bit. As you can see the time down there on the bottom left. I'm speeding it up a little bit so you can see how much they move. But they do this a little bit slower. But when you speed it up, it just puts it all in perspective, what's actually going on. And it's, like I said, it's mind-boggling.
That is definitely mind-boggling. This is not sort of multiple aircraft or falling stars or anything like that. And this is yet another one that you sent. There's no radar, no aircraft up in the sky. This is yet another recording. So the same sort of thing, correct?
Yep. Same exact thing. Just doing different stuff. It's
wow. Yeah, that's it's this is definitely compelling. And again, I would point out that, and would you both agree that these videos don't do it justice? Like what you see to your eye is significantly more impressive, or however you want to put it, compared to what the camera picks up, correct?
Yeah, I mean, as far as video footage from me personally, I never had any, but what I was seeing personally, you either could tell that there was something there of a shape, or you couldn't because of just how bright these lights were, the amount of how much there was with like how many were showing up, and they all either resembled the same thing, or there was just the big ones and then the smaller ones. The no noise, that was the other thing that was always crazy to me, is if these things are these big, why is there no noise? Why is there no prop wash? Why is there no turbine engines? Why is there no hum from electrical or battery operated? Because they were low enough that you should have heard something. And a lot of the times that was one of the first things that was brought to me by witnesses or by other deputies that saw them personally as well, is there's no noise. There's no, sound from a quadcopter would make at 60 feet. You would clearly hear that, especially in this area where there is no noise pollution from traffic. There's no horns honking. The only thing you're hearing around here at night outside of the towns are coyotes and yourself. That's literally what it comes down to. So
you were going to say you're about to add to that?
No, I was just agreeing. It's just dead quiet.
Wow. Yeah. So it's not like you're in a city where there's a lot of noise and it may be difficult to make the sound out of something. You would definitely hear this.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I said, you can hear the commercial aircraft when they're up at their ranges on any given day, even during the day when it's not as silent. So you can't hear anything out of these.
Wow. Okay. Another question, and again, folks, super chats are open. We always appreciate donations for the show. Natasha Falder, this is for Chris. What did the contrail look like? Puffy, smoky, or spray? Give us a little bit more detail on the contrail that you witnessed with that vehicle that was only a few, 100 feet or so or less from you.
Yeah, it looked like your typical contrails that you would see from a jet flying at 30,000 feet, moving at high speeds. It had that look to it. It almost looked like it could have been a cloud, but it wasn't. It was a straight line of contrails coming off this thing. And I noticed them clear back almost to where the co-op light was as it went by me. But then, of course, once I hit that bridge and noticed that it was gone, when I turned to look back behind me to see if those contrails were still there, they had dissipated, they'd went away. So I don't know. It's crazy weird to me.
Yeah, and weird indeed. Okay, let's play another tape here. This is from December 22nd at 3:49 a.m. Let's see here. So this looks like your security camera again.
Yeah, there's another one my security camera caught.
And is the motion activating the camera, or is it recording constant?
Yeah, the motion activates it, and then it sends me an alert on my phone.
And it looks like it is. Well, yeah, you can see this thing blinking in the middle of the screen. And I don't think I superimposed the radar data, but there was. Well, actually, it looks like somebody's out there. I hope that's you.
I actually went outside after this one. I called somebody up and had them come out and clarify with me, and we looked at it together, and it blew both of our minds, because this is the last one of the videos that I think I took of this. Yeah. So then we went out and same thing, and he witnessed the same exact thing as well. He even took recordings on his phone.
And again, no, this thing looks like it's pretty stationary.
Yep. It stays there for a while, then it goes on and off. And then we actually ended up seeing, I don't think I got it on video, but there was one that was it was like burnt orange color. It was over to the right of this one. And that one kind of blew my mind as well. I wish I would have got that one on video.
Yeah, crazy. So are you hearing this, Officer Stedham, from your county residents that they are seeing these as well?
I actually don't really hear much from the people around here. I don't know if they're just used to it by now or what the deal is, but we don't hear too much about it, actually, unless you talk to them and bring the conversation to them, then maybe. But
now, when you say used to it as in when this picked up 3 weeks ago, or used to it as in this has been going on there since 2019, 2020?
Yeah, years ago. It hasn't been prevalent around here for the whole 4 years or whatever, but it's been off and on, and I think people are honestly just used to it. They don't report much, and it's just another thing, another day in Oregon.
That's just crazy. So this didn't just like pop up 3 weeks ago. You're saying that this has been ongoing since 2019, 2020 in Nebraska.
Yeah, correct. 3 weeks ago is when it started ramping up, and things really started getting hectic. But yeah, it's been going on a while.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Arcos, I'm not going to even try your last name because I'll butcher that. Please thank these officers for their courage from France. Fans of what you guys are doing all the way from France. So thank you very much. Jason Ward, thank you so much, officers. Yeah, again, it's like people are really appreciative for your service. Let's see here. Going through more questions. Let's see. Nick M, thank you very much for the super chat, our first super chat donation during the show. Thank you for that. A couple in New Jersey said a goofy-looking helicopter making crazy moves followed her husband as soon as it spotted him. He ran inside his home and turned around. This was last year. Do you see a pattern? Have you guys ever heard of that? Like things that maybe look like military helicopters that just maybe don't quite make sense.
Yeah, when I was a firefighter in Cortland, actually, this would have been around 2019 time, a little after. I witnessed that a couple times going down Highway 77, where there's just an orb. What it looked like, and they would follow a ways down there. Same kind of thing. So I've definitely seen them do it. It's almost like they toy with you a little bit. Like they know you're there and they just want to get a reaction or something. It's strange.
But did this appear as a helicopter or an orb of light?
It was just like an orb, but it would follow you the same way.
Okay, got it. Okay, but you haven't seen helicopters that seem odd or anything like that?
No, definitely not around here. What helicopters we do see are usually like your National Guard guys up here on their weekend training in a Chinook or a Black Hawk, traversing the rivers and stuff like that, or actually coming to our airport, maybe doing some type of training at the airport with their helicopters. The other helicopters that we do see around here occasionally are medevac guys that are coming from the hospitals in Kearney or Lincoln or Grand Island, come to pick somebody up. And as far as them, they land at the hospital, they pick up the patient, and they fly right where they need to go, or they'll fly to the actual airport, land at the airport, ambulance transports the patient, gets on the helicopter, and then they leave right back to where they came from. They don't ever just mess around our towns or fly over, the houses or anything like that. They have their mission, they go do their mission, and then they leave.
Any chance that what either of you have witnessed were perhaps these helicopters?
I guess there's always a chance, but I don't think so. Not in my opinion, absolutely not.
Okay. Let's see. Please.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say a lot of these other deputies and stuff that I have associated with for many, many years now, they're both, well, I should say a lot of them are still in the military or also were in the military before they became deputies. And they know what helicopters are. They know what, Cessnas are, what C-130s, C-5s, C-17s. They know what these are. And they were not seeing that. They were not seeing planes. They were not seeing helicopters. They were seeing things that could they have been the drones? Yes. But when you're seeing 50 in Valley County and you're seeing 25 in Lincoln County and you're seeing, 15 in Garfield County, all at the same time or within just a few minutes of each other, you're not seeing your hobbyist drones out. You're just not. It's a coordinated event. They are doing something, whether it's, a mission from our military or a foreign adversary or whatever else it could be. They clearly have a mission and it's coordinated. It's very well funded. It's not a helicopter out flying around. It's not a Cessna as far as, coming from an airport. It's not a crop duster. This stuff, I want people to know that out here in Ord and in Valley County, our population is smaller than our cattle population. We have more cows in Valley County than we do people. And for the activity that we were seeing in 2019 and 2020, it's so crazy. I don't know what the point of it was. If it was an adversary, how and where were they going to at night to refuel, re-energize? Where were they hiding? It's central Nebraska. We're talking thousands of miles in any direction to a body of water where you can put an aircraft carrier, a cargo ship. These things were not flying into a semi truck at 3:30 in the morning on a highway. They weren't flying out of these semi trucks. We attempted to pull these vehicles over that could have been, a HUD for these things. We did our due diligence out here to figure out what it was, and we just never could. They were very, very technologically advanced. Whether it was a drone or something else, it didn't matter. They were very, very, very advanced. And to be out in Ord, Nebraska, Valley County, Nebraska, over in the surrounding counties, we don't have nuclear facilities right here. We do have ethanol plants that send out feed and make ethanol for our vehicles. We do have that stuff, but as far as a mission that a military would be running that is our own, or a foreign government, I don't understand what their reconnaissance purposes would be other than our infrastructure, our train lines, where our trains come from, because we do feed a lot of the country's animals. We do send out a lot of feed to other places, but I don't understand what they were doing, especially when you start getting phone calls from your ranchers about these things harassing their livestock, harassing their horses. These things hovering over schools here in Ord, Nebraska, that I believe was actually in one of the reports I sent you from the local office here in Ord, about she witnessed this larger looking drone and possibly up to 3 more hovering over our schools. What's that about? Why, if you're a foreign adversary and you want to hear the government say, oh, these aren't a threat, if it's our foreign adversary, what are they flying over our public schools for? What's the point of that? I just wanted to throw that out there as well.
That's absolutely horrifying.
Yep.
That's
Just to add on it too, like these things, if they were actually drones or something of our military or origin or something like that, like drones have to land. They have to land somewhere, and not once out of the scores of these things that I've seen have I ever seen one land or take off. They're just there, and then they're gone just quick.
okay.
Yep.
Let's see another question here. Lee Asbury, glad to see more coming forward on this bizarre story. Terrence Willis, a question for all three. Did they seem to be looking for something or just wanting to be seen? And thank you all for having the guts to look for the truth.
I have no idea what they're doing. It's like they want to be seen, but they don't at the same time. Like they have their lights on for a reason. If they really, with them having the ability to turn their lights off at will, and then the fact that they don't could mean one thing, but then at the same time, they stay away from you far enough so you can't make out the shape and everything of them. So it's just confusing. Like we know nothing. Like we definitely need help understanding what they're doing here.
Understood. Actually, I want to issue a correction. The super chat was actually from Phantomus Phanto. Thank you so much for that. Here's another good question from Cosmic Serpent. Any cattle mutilations reported in your county?
Not during that time. Not in 2019, 2020.
No. I think I've heard about something that was like in the 50s or something, maybe, that I've just heard in a story, but nothing recently.
Not in my time that I have been here in Valley County have I seen a cattle mutilation or one been reported to me. We do deal with ranchers calling in their cattle dead, and there may be some type of nefarious play to it, like another angry rancher shot another guy's cow or something like that. Like that does happen. But as far as a cattle mutilation going on when this was going on, no. I will tell you that back, I believe, in the early 2000s, my mother-in-law actually did a report in a county south of here on an actual very bizarre cattle mutilation. But that was in the early 2000s, I believe.
Okay. Juan, a question for Matt. Was that plasma bean-shaped orb stuck in a tree branch ever debunked? I'm not sure what we're talking about here. Paul Ross, are there any significant cave systems in Nebraska in your area?
Yeah,
Not to, yeah, I was going to say Happy Jacks, but it wouldn't be to the extent where these things could go hide and fly in, because Happy Jacks is, people go there every day to climb to the top, take a 20-minute break from work. Yeah, they definitely wouldn't have been hiding in them if that's what he was maybe referring to.
Got it. Okay. Let's see another super chat from Phantomus Phanto. Do you need funding for better equipment? I think that question was for me. Yeah, actually, since the show's been running, any donations we get or subscriptions, they go right back into purchasing equipment, because it is certainly not cheap. Question about from this gentleman who just gave us another super chat. What about a drone with large spotlights? There has to be some. Oh, I'm not sure what he means. He's basically saying you could buy some spotlights to get donated. I'm not sure. Not sure what that means. Let's watch another video. This is from December 22nd at 6:08 a.m. So again, there's no air traffic on the radar. And let's see. What are we looking at here? If you can see that, Deputy, is that looks...
The videos are showing up really small on my screen. I apologize. Yeah, it's hard to see.
Yeah, no, it's hard to see. Hard to see here. I'm going to kind of... I think this could be from your security camera, but again, just...
No, this is from when I was still outside. So this was the last one that I had. This was one. It just went from like really lower altitude, like a lot lower than normal. I bet this one was probably around 6,000. So for these little ones that are usually up way higher, this one was actually a little closer. It looks a lot closer in person. But it went straight up and it like goes towards the moon, and then it does a complete 90-degree angle, and it comes back right over top. It is just going at speeds that are just insane. And again, no sound.
And this, so this would have occurred last night?
Yes, this was this morning.
This morning, okay. Oh yeah, right. Yeah, 6:08 a.m. That's, yeah, it looks like there's something else blinking there. Oh yeah, right below it, there's another one. Yeah, and it blinks off and then comes back on.
Yep.
So Officer Stedham, or Deputy Stedham, in your personal opinion, what do you think these things are?
I don't know if I can put a nail on it, but they're definitely not of our origin. I can say that much. We don't have the technology, I don't think, to be able to do half the maneuvers and the stuff that they do. And if it would be us, we're doing a bunch of illegal stuff. We're turning the lights off and we're flying at night. And I don't think it's from here.
And are there any nuclear facilities in your county, either power plants or ICBMs, any of that?
No.
None of that. Wow. Chris, what is your opinion on, do you think these things are terrestrial or man-made? What is your sort of take on it, your personal take?
Like Jade said, I can't put a nail on it. I can only speculate. I can tell you that whatever these things are, they're very advanced. The technology is advanced. How do you cover, in like the one that I saw, how do you cover 3/4 of a mile at 100, 150 feet, in 2 to 3 seconds without not having noise? I mean, could it have been flying so fast that it broke the sound barrier and I should have heard a sonic boom? I think so. I believe so. How did it have contrails behind it, but yet it's not making noise and causing friction in the air and heating up itself from how fast it was going at that 100 feet? The technology is great. And then when you think about what that sheriff saw in the county, 2 counties over, even if that thing was a drone, why was it not making noise when it was, according to him, the size of his Suburban? The technology is phenomenal. And if it is the United States, hell yeah. Like, you're not going to hear me complaining. I want to be able to defend ourselves and fight off our enemies. I commend our military and our scientists and our elected and government officials that are giving us this technology, if it is us. I'm not putting them down in any way when it comes to that. I appreciate that. I want my children to grow up and be safe. If it is our adversary, we're in trouble, because this was over Nebraska in 2019 and 2020. And I'm being told by multiple people within government, within the military, it's not us. No, that we're not doing that. What was its purpose? If it is some advanced technology that's not from Earth, what were they doing in Nebraska in 2019, 2020, flying over our little towns, harassing livestock, giving law enforcement a problem, wasting our taxpayer dollars? You know, it made no sense. And as far as if it is from somewhere else and they are showing themselves, you know, maybe the people they don't want to talk to are our government officials. You know, they need to come and talk to guys like you who are going to have an open mind and want to talk to them, you know, because look, here we are, we're in 2024. And you can ask Jade. I've been talking about this and letting people know and everything since this has happened. He can tell you the conversations that we've had over the years about this stuff. I've been doing so much to try and get people involved that are in our military. I've reached out to officials that were in government, that are in government. I've reached out to our senators and congressmen here in Nebraska, and I've not received an email back from anybody. And
Amazing.
yet I can email you, and within a few days you're getting in contact with me and hearing what I can tell you, and then asking me for the proof of stuff, the 911 calls, witness testimony, additional law enforcement officers' contact information, you doing your due diligence. And here we are 2 months after I reach out to you, and we got guys like Chris Cuomo interested in this stuff, you know, but our government gives us the runaround. And we have some pretty significant journalists out there that are interested, that aren't afraid to bring this stuff up, that aren't going to tell us, well, we don't know, you know, we'll look into it. They're going to sit us down. They're going to want to hear what we have to say. And then they're trying to get our government officials to come out and be a little bit more honest with us. Because like I said, if it's our technology, awesome. I am a patriot. I love my country. I am a very big fan of my military. I still have brothers and sisters in arms that are still in the military. You know, I appreciate a lot of these congressmen and women that are bringing the forefront to whatever this is. I want them to be involved, because not only do we pay them, but they clearly care, and they want to get to the bottom of it. So if it's us, just be honest. You know, the American people, we can handle the truth. We can on many, many levels. We've seen multiple world wars. We've seen the global war on terrorism. We've seen terrible stuff that has happened in our country from the beginning to now. We're Americans. We can handle it.
I completely agree. I want to thank Kelly Kalsnick for the super chat. Do you guys think that these drones represent a leapfrog in technology? Sounds like you both do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. From super chat, thanks again for the super chats. Help us buy some better equipment here. From PLBM Music. Hi, Matt. Thank you for reporting on the issue. You're very, very welcome. As I always say, this is a team effort. Another super chat from Phantomus. He's asking if the officers could use equipment, FLIR cameras, etc., to properly see these things. Are you guys equipped with any kind of FLIR or night vision equipment typically?
No, not within our department. When we're on the special response team that we had previous to this year, we had some of that stuff available to us, but not right now. It would definitely be helpful.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. I would love to have something like that myself. Deputy Stethem, do you think? And This question is not coming from a partisan point of view. If there were a Republican administration, I would be saying the exact same thing. Do you think that the White House is lying to the public?
Well, whether it's lying or not, I don't know if I would go that far, just because I don't know. I don't want to stir things up, but they're definitely, I think they know more than they're leading on. And even if they don't, like, just tell us, because we have to know. Right now, if they're trying not to cause panic, they're going to end up doing it. And having a little bit of panic right now would be a lot better than the alternative. If these things come out, in masses, and then something happens, we're going to be a lot worse off then than we would be if we were told, what exactly is going on, or what they know, even for that point.
Chris, do you think that this jeopardizes our security? Do you think that this should people at home be concerned about what is going on? Is this a possible threat to public safety?
It very much could be. Just bringing up from our past conversations about, what if one of these larger drone things, whatever you want to call them, strap 15 pounds of C4 on them and fly them into an ethanol plant around here? You're going to have some significant damage. You're going to have loss of life. You're going to have your soil ruined where, farmers are planting their crops, things like that. You're going to have a significant amount of damage. And we know that drones are capable of this. We see it in Ukraine. We're seeing it in, the Israel Hamas stuff. They're flying precision little drones into buildings and flying them through windows and blowing buildings up. So yeah, it could very much become a threat if whatever this is wanted to. And if it's our government that's doing it, it's our military, it's a private contractor, just tell us. I mean, if anything, the populace out here in Nebraska, if we know that this is our military operating here, this is a pretty patriotic area. This area loves its country. We're probably going to be like, oh yeah, it's military out here operating. Okay. There's going to be a lot of people that will leave it alone and stop bringing it up. But when you tell people out here, we don't know, there's nothing that we can do, don't worry about it, people around here, yeah, they're going to tell you, nah, we're going to keep looking into this. We pay your tax, or we pay your salary with our taxes. You're going to do something, or we're going to just keep bothering you.
Yeah.
And to add on that, if that's another one of the things too, with the people around here and a lot of rural places, even in other states, if they don't tell us, especially farmers and stuff like that have a lot of stake, like they're going to take matters into their own hands, and then it's gonna go AWOL from there. So.
Yep.
Understood. Okay, so let's see, Deputy Stethem, we know you have to go on duty, so we're not going to keep you. And Chris, so as I mentioned before, when we interviewed you, I actually conducted the interview. I think it was like a month prior to when we aired it, and at that time you were chief of police. You have since left. Can you tell us why you are no longer chief of police?
Yeah, so I resigned from my position back in December 8th of this year with the police department because I'm going to be taking a private contract job overseas. And I just wanted to better my family a little bit better than what I have now with, a little bit better pay. And I've been wanting to do that job for quite a while now. And now that is another opportunity for me, I just decided to take it.
Yeah, congratulations to you both. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on. I look forward to hearing more. Thank you for what you're doing for your country. And yeah, my hat is off to both of you. You both are the epitome of putting country before self and serving as law enforcement officers in this great United States of America. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, great. No, thank you. Okay, awesome. Well, that was that was really great. So I do want to point out Mark von Rennenkamp, who is a friend of the show. He was noting that in some cases these things, some of these videos can be mistaken for either Starlink or something like that. So not every video is going to be a hit. Obviously, what you have to rely on in many cases, especially in this case, because this is coming from law enforcement, is what they are witnessing with their eyes. And again, it's just the fact that we have trained officers that are viewing this stuff. Now, the current stuff that is being seen over Nebraska that Deputy Stethem has been messaging to us over the past few nights. As he noted, many of these things are only about 5,000 feet off the ground. They're much lower than the air traffic overhead. Certainly, I would think that they would look completely different than a satellite going over, which is obviously going to be in excess in altitude to what you would see with drones or commercial aircraft. But really the thing to keep in mind here is that this has been going on for quite some time, and this is what I brought up on News Nation with Chris Cuomo. The sheer fact that this has been occurring since 2019, 2020, it lays bare the fact that the Biden administration, they know what these things are. We had a source that told us that it has been just a absolute shit show in the White House as they've been panicking over how to mitigate this crisis, and it's really insane. And the fact that the White House is trying to play this as misidentified aircraft. And again, I'm not saying that is not the case. That certainly videos, and even possibly some of the videos that we just saw from Officer Stethem, there is a slight chance that these could be misidentified aircraft. But the totality, when you have that sheer number of videos coming from individuals, it really tips the scales in the direction that these are not any sort of conventional thing. And again, I would point out from Officer Grooms that in the 2019-2020 sightings, that these things were only 100 to 200 feet off the ground. We have in our possession, I think it's somewhere around 80 to maybe 100 911 calls to record that were provided to us from the 2019-2020 incident. And when you read these records, it is clear that these are not conventional drones. They are not hobbyist drones. They are not jet aircraft that's being mistaken for these things. It is really something else. And the fact that you've got this administration, and again, if this were a Republican administration, I'd be saying the same thing. I'm coming at this from a nonpartisan lens. The fact that this administration is gaslighting Americans, the fact that this administration is gaslighting lawmakers, the fact that this administration is gaslighting local and state police is unacceptable. When you have local and state law enforcement, and by this I'm talking about what has been reported in New Jersey, when they are basically getting the same line of bullshit that the public is getting, these men and women that are sworn to protect all of us, when they get garbage from the White House, from the Biden administration, from the Pentagon, how can they do their jobs? When Officer Grooms spoke about these things in Ord, Nebraska in 2019-2020 over a school where our kids are at, and there's no strategic or any reason that they would need to be out there. How is that not a threat to public safety? It clearly is. The administration, the Biden administration, the Pentagon, the three-letter agencies, they want all of you, and in particular, state and local officials and members of Congress, they want all of them to think this is brand new. When you listen to Admiral Kirby come out and throw out these just absolutely insane talking points, it's almost like you're watching a skit from Saturday Night Live. It is just laughable at what they really think that we're going to buy. Like Officer Grooms and Deputy Stethem said, the good people of Nebraska, they love their country. They know when the government is lying to them. We all know that the government is lying to us right now. So their comms plan, their communications plan, the Biden administration's communication plan to try and put the cat back in the bag is to say, oh, this is all new. You know what? We're going to look into this. By golly, we're going to get to the bottom of this. We want to know the answers to the same questions everyone here that's watching wants to know. We're going to get to the bottom of this. We're going to send out some special teams. We're going to send out some special drone detection stuff, and we're going to figure out what all this stuff is. It's a load of bullshit that they are selling every single American. It is garbage. They are lying to you. Do not accept what they are saying. It is when an administration, and again, I don't care if it's Republican or Democrat or anything in between, when an administration is lying to the public and lying to state and local officials and lying to lawmakers about something that directly involves this nation's national security, that is the most un-American thing you can do, full stop. It is absolutely un-American for officials from the Pentagon, from officials from the National Security Council, to trot out in front of TV on Fox News, CNN, whatever, and say, there's no, I forgot exactly what the phrase was, but we do not think there's a threat. You do not think there is a threat? You got to be kidding me. So the administration is saying, we don't know where these are from. We don't know where they're coming from, where they're going to. We don't know who's flying them. But the fact of the matter is they do know all the answers to all those questions. But then they won't come clean with law enforcement. They won't come clean with the people that are sworn to protect and serve the citizens of this country. They're leaving them in the dark. I cannot think of a greater case of gross negligence from an administration when it comes to this. I cannot think of any. I don't know who's running the ship over there. I don't get it. And I'm a Democrat. I voted for Biden, and I'm mad as hell that this is going on. This is incompetence from an administration the likes that I have not seen in a very, very long time. Now, when it comes to the UAP issue, this has been kept in the bag for many decades, Democrat and Republican administrations. This is nothing new. But when they say that they don't think there is a threat to public safety, they don't think. How do they know this? When they're not, when they publicly, anyways, are stating this. This is a public safety issue when it boils down to it. It is a national security issue. The fact that these vehicles are operating with impunity all across the United States, the fact that these vehicles are operating with impunity over joint air bases in the UK and at NATO bases, the fact that these things have operated in such a prolific way that last year they shut down Langley Air Force Base for almost a month, where they had to move an entire F-22 fighter wing out to another air base. And then just recently at Andrews Air Force Base, these things shut down the airspace again. How can this administration tell any of us that this is not a threat. It makes zero sense. It is a lie. They are not being truthful with Americans when they say that. These things are not just a nuisance. These are these incursions, because they are operating in restricted airspace. If I were to hop in a small private plane and start tooling around and circling over Langley Air Force Base or Andrews Air Force Base, I would get shot out of the sky. If I had a hobbyist drone and I were flying that over Andrews Air Force Base or Langley Air Force Base, tooling around, that drone would get knocked out of the sky. They have the technology to do that. But they do not have the technology to mitigate and even detect what is going on with their anti-drone technology. Think of the millions, possibly, I'll just say hundreds of millions of dollars that the Pentagon has spent on anti-drone technology, and none of it is doing a damn bit of good. Our taxpayer dollars are going to this Pentagon black hole budget that clearly is not effective. And this White House is covering it up. That is unacceptable. What is important is that all of us amplify these voices of these law enforcement officials. We need to get these folks, such as Officer Chris Grooms and Deputy Stedham, in front of Congress to talk about what they viewed. Because here's one of the main things that I want to emphasize with this whole Nebraska thing. You can make a somewhat reasoned argument that in a busy airspace such as New Jersey or Los Angeles, that there is a lot of air traffic, conventional air traffic, that could be misidentified. And certainly there is a portion of this that is being reported in New Jersey and New York that is being misidentified, just due to the sheer amount of things flying around in the sky. But what you are hearing, specifics from people in New Jersey, when they're talking about things the size of cars, that's not a conventional drone. The fact that in Ord, Nebraska, a population of what they say 2,000 to 3,000 people, that hundreds of these things are operating in a piece of America where there is no noise pollution, there is no light pollution, and there are barely airplanes cruising overhead at 35,000 feet that you can barely hear. What they're talking about is something different. Could a percentage of them be prosaic? Absolutely. What all of this says is that, this really connects the dots to this entire UAP issue. My personal view is that the most of what is going on is likely UAP. It is most likely UAP mimicking what we would normally see in the sky as drones. That's my personal opinion. The jury is still out, but when you hear behavior, particularly what Officer Grooms spoke about in terms of no noise, these things being as large as an F-150 pickup truck. I mean, come on. It does not take a rocket scientist to figure out that that this is not something normal. But what this shines a spotlight on is the dire need for legislation to be passed by Congress that restores oversight of the executive branch when it comes to this issue. Now, Senator Chuck Schumer and Senator Mike Rounds put forth the UAP Disclosure Act for 2024. That was unfortunately defeated. It was 63 pages of legislation on UAPs, and once again, probably the fat cats in Congress that are the recipients of large amounts of defense dollars were the ones that killed it. But here's the thing: all of this, Havana syndrome, UAPs, likely all of this, because I do think it's UAP, is classified in two places. It's classified under the White House National Security Council, and it's classified in the Department of Energy under the 1954 Atomic Energy Act under Transclassified Foreign Nuclear Information. These classification buckets, Congress does not have the legal authority to view. So if you've got a special access program or controlled access program related to UAP or drones or continuity of government or nuclear war plan, the nuclear war plans, Congress does not have the ability to view that classified product. Not even the Gang of Eight has the legal authority to view that product. So these classification buckets that these things sit under, Congress has no insight. They don't have any. They don't have a window into how many billions, if not trillions, of dollars are being spent on researching this off-world tech. Congress, they don't have access to it. They are frozen out, and this has been this way for well over probably 80 years, and it has got to change. The other thing is that, we've seen time and time again, whether it's local law enforcement, such as Officer Chris Grooms or Deputy Stethem, that all of these folks, they need whistleblower protections, especially the folks that are whistleblowing to government, filing PPD-19s. There is a long history of the executive branch, in particular the Pentagon, from physically retaliating against these whistleblowers, and we need protections for these whistleblowers. I want to point out again, the difference in reaction from the Biden administration during the China balloon gate, or whatever you want to call it, compared to now. So on February 11th, on previous orders of Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, a, quote, small cylindrical object was shot down over the Yukon Territory for violating Canadian airspace. Both U.S. and Canadian aircraft had scrambled, and a U.S. F-22 fighter jet made the kill. Again, has that been shared with Congress? Gun camera footage been shared with Congress? No. On February 14th, the U.S. government announced that the latter three high-altitude objects shot down over North America were likely private entities with no relations to China. Further analysis and debris collections were underway. The 4 AIM-9X heat-seeking missiles expended for shooting down these objects cost at least $1.5 million. The disparity in decision-making for shooting these things down versus the Chinese balloon, both caused public panic and alarm. And now the Biden administration is just trying to blow this off. The millions of dollars in hundreds of millions of dollars likely spent on this anti-drone technology that clearly is not working. You have to ask yourself, why is President Biden ignoring this? Why, despite all of this information, all of this data, and they know what this stuff is. Now, we know in the past that the National Security Council has not shared everything or sometimes anything at all regarding UAP with a sitting president. So we have no idea if Biden was even told about any of this. Frankly, the way he's doing these days, I would be kind of surprised if they have. I have no idea if Vice President Harris was briefed on any of this. I have no idea. I would hope to God that they are. But we know that there is a history of the NSC, National Security Council, of deciding that a sitting president or vice president doesn't need to know. We know for a fact that National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, who sits, of course, on the National Security Council, is the primary actor that blocked any further disclosure of what's going on with UAP. That kind of stuff, my friends, that jeopardizes our national security. That, my friends, is unacceptable. This kind of gaslighting they're basically treating us like we're a bunch of children. That has got to change. And my message to the incoming Trump administration is you have a unique opportunity to turn this around. You have a unique opportunity to end 80 years going of lies to not only Americans, but every man, woman, and child in the world. My message to the Trump transition team is you have a unique opportunity to lay bare the gross incompetence and illegal activities that the Central Intelligence Agency has engaged in. President Trump, who will be President Trump very soon, sitting in office, you, sir, have the ability to put an end to all of this. It is time to rip the Band-Aid off and come clean with Americans. And President Trump, you have the legal authority to do this. Once you are in office, you can declassify anything that is under the National Security Council, which is where these waived, unacknowledged SAPs and caps. You, sir, have the ability with a simple executive order to declassify what is sitting under the National Security Council. Now, what is under the Department of Energy, under transclassified nuclear information? President Trump, you do not have the unilateral authority to declassify that. You are part of a panel that has to vote to declassify it, and I would certainly encourage you, sir, to do that. It is high time that the lies and the just horrible things that this government has done. And when I say government, I mean the folks that have, the people, the lifelong senior executive service folks that serve across multiple administrations regardless of party. These folks that have been engaged in clear illegal activity that classify as felonies, you do not have a democracy when those people are not being held to account. You do not have a democracy when the C-suite of multiple trillion-dollar defense corporations, when the C-suite is fully aware of criminal activity that their security contractors are engaged in. I'm talking Northrop Grumman, I'm talking Boeing, I'm talking Aerospace Corporation. Those are probably just some of the few that are likely doing some really bad things that any of us that are Americans would be absolutely enraged to find out what is going on. You do not have a country, you do not have a democracy, a functioning democracy, when people that have worn the uniform, when men and women that have served our country, some that have given it all to country, you do not have a democracy when the Pentagon and the CIA retaliates against those people for calling out what is going on. The fact that you have the Department of Defense Inspector General leaking information, privileged information that was given to them under a testimony to that office. That when you have the DOD IG who is saying, hey, whistleblowers, if you see something bad, if you know that there's some illegal activity going on with this whole UAP thing, come talk to us. And then they go and then they provide a private testimony, a sworn testimony to the DOD IG, but then the DOD IG goes and leaks that information to the press, leaks personal information and what that whistleblower said to the press, so that the pond scum of the earth, in terms of journalists, can do everything they possibly can to discredit that individual. You gotta be kidding me. This system is set up to fail. This system is of the Pentagon, of these, I dare say, deep state. And I know there's a lot of partisan baggage that goes with it. But at least when it comes to this thing, this sure as hell is the case. You have a group of 50-ish or so senior executive service level folks that have made this decision for all of us. We have had no input. Congress has no input. They've decided for all of us what we get to know, this group of 50-ish or so folks. And the people, the leadership in defense aerospace, they are complicit in this. The fact that you have whistleblowers' lives being threatened. It's like, it makes you wonder what kind of country we truly live in when this kind of stuff is going on. I can tell you, when I was in Washington, D.C. for the congressional hearing, I wasn't there as the host of the Good Trouble Show. I was there with the team as I'm the director of strategy for UAP Disclosure Fund. And we were there to support Lou Elizondo in what he was doing there. And in the multiple meetings that we had with lawmakers, they are well aware that this is real, it's going on, and it's a constitutional crisis that must be corrected. You've got, as my mom always said, it's not the lie that is oftentimes so bad. It's the lies that follow after that snowball to cover up the original sin. And that's exactly what has been going on in our country for decades. The fact that I think everyone would agree, no matter what your political preference is or what you do for a living or whatever, I think everyone watching this show would agree that as a species, things are not going well. We are not, as a species, as a country, our allies, things are not going well. We are not on a good path. What is going on in Ukraine, the conflict in the Middle East. We are not on a good path. And the trajectory that we are on as a nation, and again, this is not I'm not talking politics, I'm just talking in general, where we are as a nation, it's not good. We need the White House to come clean about all of this. And I am hopeful that the incoming administration will do this. We need something like this to shake the world out of this, I don't know what you want to call it, this madness going on where we are barreling towards nuclear conflict or a large conflict with China. And you have to ask yourself as well, God forbid we get into a shooting war with China or Russia. We had one of our sources in the government tell us that right now, within the intelligence agencies and other three-letter agencies, right now, with this administration, it is a literal food fight between these organizations over this whole drone issue. You have all these fiefdoms in government saying, nope, that's not my problem. That's your directorate's problem, or that's DHS's problem. No, you know what? That FBI needs to be looking into that. That's not our jurisdiction. So you've got this same type of behavior that happened, decades ago that led to 9/11. The intelligence failures that happened due to these pissing contests between the FBI and the CIA and other agencies. You've got that same thing happening now. We didn't learn a damn thing. So God help this country if we get into a shooting war with China or Russia, because the level of dysfunction in the Pentagon and the CIA and the NSA is another primary stakeholder of the UAP issue. This level of infighting and dysfunction, we're screwed. if we get into a shooting war with a major power. This nation, this government is dysfunctional. Doesn't matter, Republican, Democratic administration, as a whole, it is dysfunctional. It has been that way for a long time. I remember once I spoke to an Army colonel asking about how things go in the Pentagon, and this person said, well, basically each individual armed service, their focus is fighting for money. It's not, what do we need for to defend against China? It's like, oh, I want to get what the Air Force is getting, and whatever my senator is saying we need to spend money on. It's the level of dysfunction that I've heard from multiple sources going on in the Pentagon and the intelligence community is off the charts. So when the rubber hits the road and we need all of that to function well, we're screwed. We have too many people in our government that are more concerned about, and private defense contractors are more concerned about lining their pockets or getting sweetheart deals for their district, buying weapon systems that make no military sense, but it spends money in a particular lawmaker's district. We cannot operate as a country when everyone is thinking about me, me, me. We need to get this country back to a place where we are thinking about all of us and what is good for this nation. Because what is happening is truly a travesty. And the fact that this has been going on for so long and nothing is seemingly being done about it, the fact that hundreds of these things, these drones, which I do not think are drones, hundreds of these things were harassing counties in Colorado and Nebraska in 2019. And you're telling me in 2024 we're supposed to believe what the administration is saying, that this is all new and they have no idea what this is and they don't think it's a threat? It is dead obvious they are lying to all of you. It is absolutely obvious. And and the other group, I've been hammering on the administration. And again, if it were a Republican administration, I would be saying the exact same thing. But the other group that is not serving our country are these professional debunkers, folks like Mick West, Stephen Greenstreet. You've got some of these other clowns, Abnormal Chris Guy, and some others. This whole debunking thing, it is a literal industry. Like if you go and you look at the Center for Inquiry in Amherst, New York, which has sponsors these big debunker conventions in Las Vegas, and this organization that has people like Mick West and Susan Gerbic from Guerrilla Skeptics, Bill Nye the Science Guide, Neil deGrasse Tyson on their sort of celebrity board or whatever. This organization that has had something like $4.7 million coming into it. This is a whole machine. This debunking thing is a whole machine. They are nothing but agents of disinformation. They are nothing but agents of spreading conspiracies and disinformation and lies. Now, my personal opinion is I think they are probably funded by the CIA or some cutout. I have no proof, but when I look at the amount of time that people like Mick West and these other debunkers spend on this, to me it makes no sense that they would do all of this for free. But when you are wanting to kind of figure out what is going on with this whole drone situation, when you've got a group of people like Mick West and others that unequivocally say this is what it is. unequivocally say all of these videos are either Starlink or seagulls or an airplane. End of story. I think Mick West at one point had said, up, drone flaps over, let's move on. You have to really ask yourself, why are they so adamant about this? You have to ask yourself why these nutty debunkers spend so much time on this. It doesn't make any sense. I said earlier, some of the videos that were on, they absolutely could have been a misidentified aircraft. There's a difference between people like myself and others that are looking for the truth, whatever it may be, and being willing to say, you know what, that was a misidentified airplane, or that was a satellite. It wasn't anything fancy. Because you're open, your mind is open, you're willing to go wherever the data leads. But when you have these disinformation agents, these kind of agents of chaos, spreading this kind of disinformation, trying to throw chaff in the air, the purpose is to get all of you, including lawmakers, to stop asking this. That's what these debunkers want. They do not want the truth. They are there to peddle disinformation. That is their job. And all you got to do is look at their posts. When you go and if you go and you look at an account of one of these main debunkers, if you go and just skim through a year of their tweets, you will quickly realize these individuals are deceivers. That is their goal. I think they're probably paid to do that. I have no evidence. It's just a personal hunch of mine. But they are not there to get to the truth of any of this. They are not good actors. These are people not interested in the truth. These are people that will manipulate data or leave data out to prove their point. Because in their world, it is that they are basically approaching this as a black and white issue. And that is, none of this is real. It doesn't matter what evidence you show them, none of it is real. Because that's their job to tell you that. So when you have police officers like Chris Grooms, military pilots, intelligence officials, men and women working for three-letter agencies that are reporting this stuff, and what they're reporting is clearly not from here, and you've got Mick West out there saying, oh, they don't know what they're looking at. When you've got Mick West saying, oh, these police misidentify stuff all the time, or these pilots mistake balloons all the time. He's gaslighting you. All these debunkers are doing the exact same thing that this administration is doing. They're gaslighting you. These are not stupid people. These debunkers, they are not just kind of religious zealots or something. They know exactly what they are doing. And it's high time we call them out on it. I think, oftentimes I'll hear people say, you know what, you're giving these folks too much oxygen. If you didn't give them this oxygen or talk about them on their show, they would go away. But that is not the case. I could stop today and they're going to keep on going because they have such a large social media footprint. They know that they can influence things. They know that people like Mick West will be called onto CNN or to do a special for PBS to debunk this. The other thing, too, that I would point out is the mainstream media. Again, I'm a liberal Democrat. I support a lot of this stuff. I mean, well, actually, I'm more of a centrist. But, this stuff about the mainstream press, the lamestream press, it's true. They ignore things. They do not cover things. When when you have New York Times reporter Julian Barnes putting out the exact same propaganda that Mick West put out just days earlier, it's crystal clear that these folks are doing what these lifers in the government want them to do. Go back again, zoom out. Go back and look at every single New York Times article that Julian Barnes has done and ask yourself this question. Is Julian Barnes perhaps being paid by the intelligence community? Just ask yourself, after you've read all of the articles that journalist has written, ask yourself if he's being an unbiased journalist. You can see this with other journalists for Wall Street Journal and other publications, the Washington Post. When you go and you look at let's just say a recent article published about UAPs or drones, if it's basically debunking it, I guarantee you, if you go and you search for that journalist's previous articles on UAP or Havana syndrome or drones, you're going to find they took the exact same stance. Because these journalists they're compromised, really is what it is. Fortunately, you have people like Ross Coulthart, Christopher Sharp of Liberation Times, Ross Coulthart at News Nation, Chris Cuomo at News Nation, George Knapp, Mark von Rennenkampf. You have journalists that are doing the work. They are putting in the time. They are putting in the effort. And then you have somebody like this joke of a journalist, Julian Barnes at the New York Times, who is doing nothing more than carrying the water for the Pentagon. That's it. That's all he's doing. He's not investigating things. He's not contacting these folks. He's just a parrot for the Pentagon. So people like these journalists that are not being truthful, that are spreading disinformation, these debunkers that are spreading disinformation, these folks harm our national security, full stop. Because what they do has an effect on our lawmakers. When our lawmakers read a debunker article from Julian Barnes in the New York Times, they think, well, this is the New York Times. They must be credible, right? Wrong. New York Times, at least with this reporter, once again, has skin in the game. We'll just say that. You can't trust what they're saying. It's ridiculous. And I just, I hope to God that this new administration, President Trump, does the right thing. I don't think that there's any president in recent history that I would have had the same confidence in trying to do the right thing when it comes to this. We already saw that President-elect Trump, with these drones, said these basic things. The Biden administration, including President Biden, knows what these things are and where they're from. I think he said they've known about this for a while, that for some reason they're not telling the public, and President-elect Trump has no idea why, and that these things are weird. I forgot the thing. And that he also, President Trump, would not say if he had been briefed on it, but I guarantee you he has. So already you've got an incoming president who has said more than just about anyone, certainly more than this president has. So I really, truly hope, and we should all hope, again, I'm a Democrat. I am wishing this president well, that he do the right thing and get this thing out. It's got to happen. So I support this incoming administration in any work they do to get this thing out. Doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican, you should support any president that is working to right the wrongs when it comes to this topic. So I certainly am supportive of that. We may disagree on just about anything else, but policy-wise. But I truly hope President Trump and his administration do the right thing. I am optimistic in that the appointees that he's made, such as Marco Rubio and other good Republicans, most of those folks have either been partially read in or fully read into this whole UAP issue, and all of them, as far as I'm aware, in terms of their public statements, have all publicly stated that this needs to come out. And speaking of presidents, my message to any former presidential administration. Pretty much every president now, and that is alive in our lifetime, was read into this at some point. Read into the UAP, crash retrieval, reverse engineering program. They know all of it. Now, President Obama has spoken publicly about UAP, saying that these things are flying around in our skies. And I think President George Bush Jr. has said some things. But my message to all of these presidents, and I would say this to President Biden, is Trump is going to come into office and dump all of this, and Trump will rightfully be able to say about all of the former presidents that they knew and they chose not to tell the American public. The incoming president will come in, and we were told long ago President Trump was fully read into this towards the end of his administration, so he knows everything. He's going to come in, and when he dumps this, people are going to be asking President Obama, President Bush, President Carter, President Clinton, why you did not come clean with the American people. President Trump will be able to say truthfully that these presidents did not tell the American public. And for those of you, and we know a lot of folks in Congress watch this show now. I have no idea if former administrations do, but if you guys are watching, it's going to tarnish your president's reputation. So I would actually encourage these former presidents to reach out to President-elect Trump and say, let's all do this together. Let's all do this for country. It doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican. This whole UAP issue transcends politics. It transcends party. So every sitting president that can get up on stage with President Trump and say, look, this is what's been going on for 80 years and longer. The country made some bad decisions, but every country makes bad decisions. We all do bad things, but it's time for reconciliation. It's time to come clean with Americans and people and everyone in the world. And this is a situation. It needs to happen. As Lou Elizondo has said time and time again, this is like food rotting in the refrigerator. It's not getting any better. But most importantly, this is about your national security. When you have these things in the skies, shutting down our land-based strategic nuclear deterrent, interfering with Minuteman III missile wings, and there's a long history of it, and it is still going on to this day, and the Air Force is covering it up as they always have. When you've got these drones hovering above schools in Nebraska, when you've got these drones hovering over critical infrastructure in New Jersey and New York, when you have these drones hovering over restricted airspace over our nation's most strategically important Air Force bases that are responsible for protecting the capital region, when you've got these drones operating above Air Force bases that, by the way, are now going to be authorized to hold our nation's tactical nuclear weapons. There was an agreement that was recently signed with Britain that essentially states that our our joint Air Force bases in the United Kingdom, ones that are built to house nuclear weapons, well, guess what? An agreement was signed just in the beginning of November that reauthorizes the United States to place tactical battlefield nuclear weapons back in the UK. And these things these drones are operating above these bases. The fact that these drones are operating above NATO bases, they're reported in Germany. They're frankly reported everywhere. Folks, this is a national security issue. It is a national security, likely a threat. And this administration is fumbling the ball and putting the safety of all of us at risk. The fact that the men and women that wear the badge that protect all of us, that are sworn to protect their citizens, are being lied to and not being given the information they need to know is unacceptable. Look, these things may or may not be a threat. No one knows. They have the capability to. That is for sure. But we don't know their intent, or at least we have not been told their intent. The Biden administration, they know exactly what these things are. The Pentagon knows exactly what these things are. It's been going on probably well before 2019. So when they're acting like this is new, they are not being straight. But this is a public safety issue. Full stop. And the fact that this administration cannot even be honest with state law enforcement is just insane. It would be like if, let's say that, there's a serial burglary ring running around in my neighborhood, hitting houses. And let's say the chief of police didn't know about it. Let's say the chief of police knew about it and the mayor knew about it. But they made a decision, you know what? We're not going to tell the citizens. We're going to keep that in the dark. So I'm at home, defending my home, and I have no idea that this threat exists because the government isn't telling me about it. They're making a decision about my personal safety for me. I have no say in the matter. It would be like a mayor or police chief not telling an entire city that there's this burglary ring going around. It doesn't mean that they're going to hit your house. You may be lucky, but at least if I knew about it, I could prepare. And that's not happening. We are all being kept in the dark. Members of Congress are being lied to. It has happened time and time again, administration through administration. And my message to this incoming administration is it's time to turn a new page for this nation. It's time to put this to a stop. It has to. So, thanks again for tuning in. We appreciate the super chat donations. We really appreciate that. And I would encourage every single person watching this show, when you see your law enforcement out on the streets, when you see man or woman in uniform serving their city, I want you to go up to them and I want you to thank them for their sacrifice. I want you to thank them for putting them in harm's way to protect all of us. We need more people like Officer Grooms and Deputy Stethem to come forward and feel like they can come forward and say, look, this is what's going on. We're law enforcement professionals and this is what we are seeing. But These folks, they have a thankless job. And we should all be very, very grateful that we have law enforcement officials like Chris Grooms and Deputy Stethem that are serving their country, and we are lucky for it. I'm just going to see if we've got any more questions here. TCNN, thank you very much for the super chat. Very much appreciated. Yeah. So my message to all of you with all of this is keep reporting. Call your local officials when this stuff happens. Call your elected representatives and say, look, we know the White House is lying to us. We know that a lot of these news publications are lying, and we demand something be done about this. At the end of the day, our personal safety, our national security is everyone's business. It is incumbent on all of us that we speak up and demand that we be told the truth. Because you cannot have a democracy, you cannot have a functioning democracy when the government, when the administration, when the Pentagon, when the CIA, when the NSA, when the FBI lies to all of us. And that's what's happening now.